Well, hi. Just sort of give you a little bit of an independent tyre review in terms of what I've found, or works best for me anyway. So there's heaps of tyres on the market, and there's all sorts about whether you should get 50-50, 90 off-road, 10% on-road, and then the road-based tyres. I've tried just about everything, and I suppose this combination I'm going to run through now, probably my favourite, running from the road tyres right through to the full-on mud tyres. So where should we start? Well, I'll start on the bike first. My favourite tyre on the front is the Pirelli M21. Why is that my favourite tyre on the front? I just find for the conditions in New Zealand, it holds really well off-road with these knobblies here on the gravel and the mud. Occasionally you might feel the front end washing out on you, but it's got to be really muddy and slippery for that. But on the gravel it's perfectly fine. They don't wear too bad as well, like with any road knobbly. Base knobblies, if you're doing tarmac work, you can expect to sort of knock the edges off them. But this has probably been on, I don't know, maybe 3,500 Ks, 4,000 Ks, and starting to get a little bit worn on the backside, but plenty of tread. But the great thing about these tyres, you can just turn them round, they're not rotational with it, and they're really good on the road. In dry weather you can really put the bike over, not worry about it too much. In wet weather as well. On the rear at the moment I'm running the Continental the TKC80 tyre. This is the 140 profile, which I find is actually a little bit better on these bikes. I don't know why, but they seem to be a little bit better profile than the 150s in the dirt. They're advertised, I think, as a 50-50 tyre, and that would be about right. They're really good on the road for a knobbly. You see, it's a bit difficult to see here, but I've been right over with these tyres, so you can sort of get the chicken ship down if you want. They do wear pretty quick, the type of riding I do on the gravel. Well, I'll be lucky if I get 2,500 Ks out of one of these tyres, but then I do hammer it with a throttle and do a lot of riverbed work as well. You see, they do rip up, but as a tyre, with a lot of confidence that you can use on the road, I think they're a good compromise. My favourite tyre of all time for the mud on the BMW that I'm running has got to be this one, a good old Dunlop D606. This is a 130 profile. You read a lot on the internet about will they fit on these bikes. I've run 2 sets on this bike and I've had no issues whatsoever with them. Arguably a little bit on the narrow side for the rim, but having said that, I've burnt 2 sets of these tyres out on that bike and had no problems, and that's including airing right down to about 15 psi at times. Quite a stiff sidewall on them, so you can air down with it, and they're quite good that way. The one thing I will say about these tyres, the old Dunlop 606, is the lethal on tarmac in wet weather if you're doing a lot of twisty work. How do I know that? Well, I've been down the road several times with this tyre on the back, and every time I have this tyre on, and particularly in wet weather, I always take it really easy around the bends for obvious reasons with it. So front tyres, I've talked about the Pirelli M21, great tyre, that's a new one, just in space for it. The other tyre I've tried, the what they call a Shinko Adventure Trail tyre, the E804. Good compromise, really. Quite good on the road. Off-road, I don't know, I've got my doubts about it really. Not a very good block pattern. It works on gravel, get it in mud and slippy stuff, and it's nowhere near as good as the Pirelli. But still not a bad tyre. If you're doing a lot of gravel riding, you won't go far on with it, and quite hard whirring. The what they call the Kenda big block 150 profile This is a really good tyre off-road. I mean, look at the block pattern on it. I'd say this beats a Continental TKC80s hand down with it. They do wear quite quick. I believe the newer ones are a lot better. But you're lucky again, 2,000 Ks and be pretty much shot really for off-road work. One thing that is impressive about these tyres is they've got an incredibly hard sidewall. You can basically run these with no air in the tyres whatsoever. And they don't pop them, well, maybe no air, about 5 psi just to keep the weight on the side of the rim, but they don't squash down. I've run one of these with a puncher, and I didn't know I had a puncher actually until I stopped. They're incredibly hard tyres, but really difficult to get on the bike as well. With it, you need a really good tyre changing system. You've got to heat them up really stiff, but a very good tyre. We've got the Shinko, what they call Adventure Trail, to match the front. Not a bad tyre with it, really good on the road, not bad off-road. But they have like this bar grip thing. They have no staggered knobblies, and in the mud, especially on a corner, your back end can tend to wash out on you. On the gravel, I found it to be quite fine. Got a confidence, not a bad tyre at all really. I think that's the 140 profile I've got there. Yeah, it is. So I like running the 130 or 140 off-road instead of the 150. Just gives you a little bit more traction, I think, in the boggy stuff. Famous old Continental TKC80 front with it. Not a bad tyre. See, this has been on the road. Really good on tarmac and off-road as well. You can't really fault these tyres for a good 50-50. But that's what they are, is a 50-50. Once you start getting into the heavier stuff, in New Zealand, lots slippy, muddy clay, your front tends to wash out on you, but great on the gravel from it. Here's a new TKC80. Well, it's not been used, the 151. Again, a good tyre. I've run quite a few of these, and they are impressive for what they do. As a good compromise with it. So, just as a bit of a recap, if you're going for the hard stuff and you want a tyre that cuts it in the dirt, you won't go wrong with the M21 Pirelli on the front. My good old favourite tyre here for the muddy stuff has got to be the D60 Dunlop. Like, beats all of those hands down really for grip, traction and stuff. And actually, to be fair to this tyre, it's not bad wearing on the tyre as well, but keeps you riding quite slow in the wet where you can't bank your bike over. I run 2 sets of rubbers for the bike, 2 sets of wheels. You read all this stuff on the internet about, yeah, you know, get one tyre and it does everything. Well, pardon the expression, but I find that to be a load of bollocks. I've tried the Scouts KC60s, and you know, they're either a road tyre or an off-road tyre, and yes, you might get something in between for the gravel, but if you're getting out in the muddy stuff, you need the knobblies. It's that simple. So I've just got the Scorpion Trail on the back here, so 150 with it, and I find it great, to be honest. It'll do anything that bike, the F800, can do on the road. You get it right over, no worries, plenty of grip in wet weather, no issues there, and not too bad on the gravel actually. I live down in an area where there's a lot of gravel roads with it. And then on the front, I've got the Metzeler Tourance Next, as they call it. Again, good tyre, completely useless on the gravel despite what they say. Very your front end can really wash out quite quick with these tyres going around a bend at any type of speed, but for on the road they're perfect for what I need. So that's my sort of tyre review with it. Like I say, then others on the market which I've not had the opportunity to use, but I would say that's quite a good variation of rubber for this particular bike.